Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Welcome to whatever this is.
The 5-year anniversary AOS Minisode. That's what I'm calling it. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So what we're doing is, as part of the 5th anniversary of Age of Sigmar, Aaron Bossian is putting together a whole bunch of different content creator stuff, and we wanted to jump in on that as well. So we're going to talk about what we were doing 5 years ago when AOS dropped.
Oh, God.
And kind of follow up along with what we're doing now and what we think, where it's been and where it's going, and maybe have a couple of laughs and some poignant memories.
Trip down memory lane.
Yeah. Do you remember what you were doing when you bought your Age of Sigmar box? Other than buying your Age of Sigmar box.
I was watching my gaming group disintegrate.
Yeah.
And dealing with a lot of naysaying and whinging,
Yes.
as it were. While me and James and another guy in our group that no longer plays anything, we're deciding, well, you know, we'll keep rolling with it.
Yeah.
We'll see what this new thing is about. Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough.
I can
Looking
imagine.
back on that.
Yep.
Everybody bailed. It was just the three of us left. And we had gone from this big tournament group. I mean, Rolling Bad, long before the podcast, it was a gaming group of ours here in Albuquerque.
Yep.
And, you know, we were going to tournaments in Texas, playing 8th edition, playing 7th edition up in Colorado and everything like that. No, we weren't playing. I don't think we did 7th edition tournaments. I don't remember. It's been a while, but we, definitely 8th. And yeah, just seeing all those guys, man, the writing was kind of on the wall anyways, because I remember end times for 8th edition was really starting to rub people the wrong way. There were some armies that were just so insanely over the top. And it's funny too, because, people, when books like Skaven or like Gristlegore for Flesh Eater Course, or even Slanesh drop, and they're just like, oh my God, the balance is so wrong, and this book is so dominating, and GW doesn't know how to do well, whatever. I mean, there's people that their whole show and shtick is just being negative whiners, but I just now noticed you have the Lumineth Realm Lords box behind you.
That's for the next show.
All right, never mind. Sorry. Stay on target. It's like, just go back and look at 8th edition. Look at previous, 30 years of Warhammer before that, and how insanely imbalanced things were back then. I mean, Demons of Chaos, anybody? Yeah. I mean, this is before you started playing fantasy, but Warhammer Fantasy Battles had some of the most horrid discrepancies in power levels you would ever see. I mean, AOS has never come close to any of that. I mean, even when Tzeentch was pretty dominant there for a while,
right? It
was nothing compared to what old square-based nonsense had. So, we're definitely in a good time. Mm-hmm. And there's some books that definitely do better than some of the others.
Sure.
Which is just the way it will always be.
Yeah.
Nobody writes a perfect game.
Yeah.
And those people who think they can, I mean, give it a shot.
Balance is mythical.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, it was definitely a dark time 5 years ago.
I can imagine.
I was super hyped to see Stormcast because,
oh gosh,
I loved Empire. I had an Empire army, and I always remember thinking like how cool it would be if Sigmar had a version of these big, tough Chaos Warriors infused with power. And I mean, there were knights and stuff, but it wasn't the same.
Right.
So to see like those dudes, I was like, oh my God, these guys are for real.
Yeah.
And obviously the Bloodbound Khorne stuff was gorgeous too. So There was just so many cool things about it. You know, I had orcs and goblins, and I remember always thinking like, man, I wish I could do an all black orc army.
Yeah.
You know, and basically they made that a thing. And then they released Iron Jaws, and I was like, oh my God, this is just, this is everything I could have ever wanted for my orcs.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And it was a rough first year, though.
Oh,
no points.
God. Yeah.
It was really cool watching how the community adapted, though.
Yep.
You know, you had
MoComp, and
nobody ever talks
South
about
Coast
that anymore.
Comp,
But
SC.
Mo creating that whole set of points almost right away. You know, to give any kind of semblance to balance or structure or whatever, and then it going from there is just I don't know. It was really cool watching the community step up to a very obvious misstep by GW. I don't care what their rationale or whatever.
Yeah,
was.
I don't care how you spin it.
Yeah,
it was bad.
They screwed up, and to see the community come together and create something to fill that gap, and then to see GW say, "Ooh, okay, yeah, we did miss that," and the fact that you guys corrected that and created and filled that gap for us is really cool.
Yeah.
Let's bring you
on board. Yep.
And go forward together.
And Herner and Wayne Kemp, not Herner, Wayne Kemp and Heelan Hammer.
Yeah.
Those guys,
Van
as well
Heelan,
as
Ben with Bad Dice.
Yeah, Ben Curry.
And
the guys from Face Hammer.
And all that. And it was really, really, really cool to finally see GW reach out.
Yeah, that was kind of like the turning point.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to keep this kind of on
structured.
Yeah. Well, okay, sure. Yeah, because we do structure well.
Yeah.
It was funny for me because I had always looked at the Square Basers as sub people.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, they were gamers, but they weren't really gamers, you know?
That's fine, because the feeling was mutual.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I had read the books, and I had always convinced myself that would be a terrible world to try to game in. It's so closed. It was so stagnant, and it was just, to me, it was stale from day one that I became aware of it, not day one of its creation. And so I was very happy in my little 40K space. And, you know, I was playing pretty much regularly at the time. I had at least like one game a week going on for 40K. And I remember being in Active Imagination. And Ben said, well, you know, the new Age of Sigmar box came out. It's the new fantasy. I'm like, oh, new fantasy, just like the old fantasy with less payoff. Awesome. Yeah. And he's like, no, this is totally different. This is like a skirmish game. Take a look. And he showed me the box, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And when I got to the part about no points, I was so intrigued. I was like, that's brilliant. That is so brilliant, because now you can play those battles that you read about where they're not equal sides. They're not, you know, the two sides weren't evenly matched. Mm-hmm. And so now we can finally represent that. Yes, if I'm the guy on the short end, I don't have to win the game. I just have to do better than they did historically to technically win. Right. And I was so intrigued, and I bought that box. And then Ben said, well, yeah, you know, the guys from Rolling Bad are going to be doing this Trials of Ogre thing in a couple of weeks. Yeah. You should get in touch with them. And that literally was almost the day that the Rolling Bad podcast failed. Because I was so salty walking out that day. I was man. I will never, ever go back to that group again.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What a bunch of freaking baby seal clubbers. Wow.
Yeah, the whole bring 30 models thing when one guy's bringing goblins and another guy's bringing ogres is a little... Yeah.
Well, and that was the whole thing, is bring 30 models. So I did the Stormcast from the box because that was all I had. Mm-hmm. And, finding out that those 30 models are pretty inept
Yeah.
when you go up against, I don't know, 30 ogres. Wow. That was so bad. But yeah, that first 18 months before the General's Handbook, it was rough. I mean, there was all so much salt and hatred for the blowing up of the world that was, which I didn't want to talk about, which I thought was actually a great thing, because the world that was stagnant. There was nothing more you could do. It had ended long before they said it was ending.
Well, okay. Let's talk about that a little bit, because 40K was the same way, it felt like, and yet they found a way to breathe all this life into 40K and advance the story, which we never thought was going to happen.
Right.
Because 40K was 2 seconds to midnight, and which was the same thing for the old world. And I think that with the old world, they absolutely could have pushed that story forward, because there were so many other things they could have brought in, like Ind and Cathay and Nippon and all these other parts of the world that could have contributed, and they could have come out with additional armies and all this other stuff. The problem is probably copyright. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if I make a Japanese themed, it's just like Bretonnians. You can't copyright Bretonnians.
Right. Exactly.
And all you're going to do is keep releasing more armies like that.
Yes.
Which just isn't, it's just not going to work.
Changing one letter does not protect you.
Right.
So, yeah, making an elf into an A-elf is not all the protection you need.
Right.
You need something else to back it up. And I mean, that's the elephant in the room. The reason the old world had to blow up was it was mired in 90s and 2000s fantasy tropes, themes that were untenable. And if Chapter House taught us any one thing, it's that.
Just going to say, thanks, Chapter House.
Yeah, you don't get
the
to.
old world.
Yeah, you don't get to sit there and string two words together and say it's a copyright now.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, in reality, it was a great thing because it forced the company to open up a little bit. So,
yeah, the Mortal Realms are definitely better.
Oh, yeah.
Than the old world.
Just the things they can do. And, I mean, we've had that discussion 100 times. It's just a better situation to be in. Now you're in the same world as 40K. You have 10 million miles to develop.
Yeah.
If I want to develop 300 of those, it's not going to impact anyone else one bit.
Right. Yeah, and thinking back on those first games of Age of Sigmar using PDFs and
no
points. Oh, this was even before MoComp.
I liked the no points.
Yeah, it definitely made for some interesting games.
Yeah.
Because I remember playing, I had Bretonnians at the time, and I remember playing Bretonnians against, it was either my Bretonnians or my Empire. It was one of the two human factions. Playing them against, I don't even remember, like Beastmen or Demons or something like that, and just absolutely stomping my opponent.
Yeah.
And Aaron, I think his name was Aaron. Yeah, we were just always salty after the games of like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. And because we were so competitive before that.
Sure.
We had just come out of like these tournaments that we were going to in Texas and stuff for 8th edition. So we kind of had the mentality rolling into Age of Sigmar and trying to duplicate that or replicate that, I should say. And for a game that was so brazenly non-competitive. Anti-competitive. I mean, Jervis Johnson was kind of like, we're done with that. We don't want that in our game anymore. And it was like, I don't know. We kind of want it, though.
I think that's where the biggest disconnect was they felt like this would be widely accepted as the method to play. Discounting, and I understand there's a lot of garage gamers. There's more garage gamers than there are competitive gamers.
Sure.
And the garage gamers don't really care. They just want to play a fun game.
Sure.
But honestly, the balance of your game, the structure of your game is almost always in the miniature world driven by the competitive players. You can play War Machine in a narrative way, and you can recreate the things that happen in the War Machine lore. But that does not drive balance or tweaks to the system that make it better. Only the competitive stuff does that. And it's the same for AOS, same for 40K. I'm not a big hang-up competitive guy, but I do understand that it's those guys that have that ability to process, that intellect to make these things aware to the whole world, that drives the game designers to make changes, to make things better for everybody. So, yeah, those first 18 months with no points, no structure, it was enjoyable. It was fun if you had everybody was of a like mind. But I know when I brought my Seraphon out there after getting the book and, just having slapped together a bunch of units because you could, that's how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It was an eye-opening experience to just get tabled.
Yeah.
On turn 1 or 2 because, you're just not ready to go up against this, period.
Yeah, and I remember Russ Veal talking about how he felt like it was a slap in the face when Age of Sigmar came out and there was no points, and they were very clear about not wanting any kind of competitive aspect of it. And he was all about that style of play, and how it was kind of vindicating later to be brought in and be responsible to play test and all this other stuff. And I think, while it was a rough time period, it was crucial in giving us what we have now, and that is the 3 styles of play.
Yes.
Open, match, and narrative.
Yep.
Because if you enjoyed that, you absolutely can still keep doing that with open play.
Sure.
Wild stuff. And
look at the open play stuff they had in the last year's General's Handbook with, you're just going to take these cards until you have your army built.
Yeah.
It's completely random.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
So, it works.
And then, and the fact that they keep bringing stuff to the table for these 3 different styles. It's not like they said, okay, here's the first General's Handbook. Hey, guys, here's open play. In case you enjoyed these last 18 months, you can keep doing it, whatever, and then we'll never touch on that again.
We'll never see it
We're
again.
just going to, okay, fine, we'll do competitive. No, it's every time we get these books.
We get new ways to play.
Yeah, they update all 3 styles. So that's really cool, and it's good on Games Workshop to show that they embrace all of it.
I have to believe that there was that heady time when AOS first came out, and this is what made me want to do the podcast in the beginning, was that sense of community, of people banding together to make to make a competitive way to play, to make a balanced way to play without any input from the flagship. Yeah. This was MoComp. This was, what was it, Azir Comp?
Yeah, there was Azir Comp.
SCGT Comp.
South Coast Comp, yeah.
And, these guys doing all that work. And I could email Dan Heelan and say, hey, I think this Seraphon unit is way out of touch with reality. And then there would be a discussion and a middle ground would be reached.
Yeah.
And, okay, no, you're wrong because this and this and this. And if you use it with this, this is what happens. Oh, I never thought of that. Or sometimes it was, yeah, you're right. That doesn't work. Let's change that. So that's where I think the community grew up because we had to rely on ourselves. And then it was only made better when GW steps in and says, you guys have already done all this work. If we just step in and do it, number 1, you're going to hate us even more. And number 2, we will have wasted our time on reinventing what you've already invented. And I think that's led to this whole thing of GW being responsive to the community as a whole and saying, give us your feedback and we'll take it because actually we figured out that it matters. You guys not only have opinions, but a lot of times you have really good ideas.
Yeah. And to be fair, they really didn't have anything to lose, man. Warhammer Fantasy was just dead. It was such a dead game towards the end of 8th edition.
Between 3 and 7% of annual sales. In any other segment, that's a product line that gets cut completely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a loser. Mm-hmm. So the idea that they revitalized it
to the point where it is now is
where it competes with 40K.
In fact, I think there was a stint there where it outsold 40K.
Yep.
Which is bananas.
Yeah, no one would have ever thought that.
But, basically, it's solely responsible for Games Workshop going out of business and being bought by Hasbro, and they really just need to bring the square bases back.
That's right. It's the only solution to their current financial woes. That whole sham of paying back all their COVID money, that's just applesauce to cover the fact that they're almost out of business.
Fake news.
Yeah.
So good.
We started the podcast about a year into AOS.
Yep. Yeah, shortly, probably within a month after Trials of Ogier.
Yeah.
We talked. Somewhere in there, yeah.
We met at Del Taco.
Del Taco. Yep.
We scarfed down food and said,
let's do this.
What the hell? Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those were crazy, crazy times.
In fact, Aaron said he goes back almost every year or whatever and listens to episode one. I have not done that. I don't know if I could do that.
I'm terrified to listen to episode number 1.
Maybe when 100 drops, I'll go back and listen to 1 and then listen to 100 and see.
Yeah, and see the difference.
Oh, God.
I know, it's going to be scary.
You know what I'm more worried about is if I sound more passionate and excited about everything. And then episode 100, I'm just like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I painted some stuff. I pushed some models. I rolled a die. Which we all know that's a lie. I won't have accomplished any of those things.
Oh, yes, we will. I'm not painting on this Night Haunt stuff for nothing, pal.
That's true.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that was some pretty heady times. And, there was some interruptions in the podcast.
Yeah.
Where we had to, go on hiatus now and then. You took a few shows off. But, I mean, through it all, I like to think we kept our finger kind of on the pulse of what was going on. Maybe not the exact competitive meta, because that's not our shtick.
Yeah.
Out here in the desert, it's kind of hard to hit all those events. So.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Planes are expensive.
They are. It's weird.
For some reason.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's been so much fun to engage with the community at large and know people all over the world that, if not on everything, we think alike about a lot of things. We think alike about our models, and we can share and we can compare. And to see this community be so strong and so active and so, I don't know, uplifting, if you will. I mean, because there's always posts that are negative Nellies and, downers and what have you. But by and large, the WhatsApp groups, the Facebook groups, by and large. Okay, leave Facebook out of it.
Leave Facebook out of it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a salt mine.
Yeah. You can tweet stuff out about your hobby, and generally speaking, you're not going to get vilified for it.
Right.
And very rarely do I see anybody jump on anyone else's hobby. In fact, I can't recall an incident of it on the Twitterverse.
Yeah, usually it's screenshots from another medium.
Yeah.
It's like, look at usually YouTube comments. Good God.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So YouTube or Facebook comments.
Yeah. That's where you get some weirdness. So as we sit here on the eve of the new General's Handbook.
Yeah. The 5-year mark.
Yeah.
5 years.
We've been through some interesting times. We've been through the Sylvaneth rant. We have been through the Tzeentch domination.
Yeah.
We have been through an edition change that literally changed everything in how the game played. We are looking now at a game that has a lot of, I don't want to say bloat, because that's almost like a bad word, but it has so many different optional things. And I think this is for the other show, but I think this General's Handbook might clear up a lot of that excess baggage.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Are we in a good place right now? And keep in mind, this is not a discussion of the meta and whether or not Army A is better than Army B, but is the system in a good place?
I think unequivocally yes, because even despite the COVID issue, going on. And the fact that this would likely be a 40K year.
Yeah.
As we're getting the new 9th edition and everything. Despite all that, we have gotten currently we'll count the Lumineth box. So that's 4 army books.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wrath of the Ever-Chosen campaign book.
Yeah.
So that's 5 books. It's July 3rd that we're recording this.
Yeah.
And we already know what the next book is.
Yeah.
It would have been in our hands already if it
Right.
wasn't for the coronavirus. So even in an off year, we're still absolutely inundated with AOS content, more so than we ever would have been before these 5 years.
Yeah.
And well, even, like the early days of AOS was a drought as well.
Oh my God.
So really just like these last 3 years have just been a tidal wave of content. So yeah, I do not see, unless you just don't have a good memory, I don't see how you could see this as not the absolute golden age of a fantasy or just being a part of the Games Workshop hobby in general. This is so good. Regardless of your view on an X army being better than Y army or whatever.
I mean, we know that there's an army out there, a couple of armies that are really, really good, and there's some that slap them in the face with their countercharge, and so those things will always be.
Yeah.
And we play around it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as some people would want to say. Now, I want to just point out the fact that here we are in the same room, podcasting for 4 years, and in that time, we have never really wavered too far from you love the competitive play part of AOS, and I've always been more in the tank for the narrative stuff. So here we are. You're going to be doing all your competitive play stuff. I'm doing all the narrative stuff. We're crossing over whenever we feel like it.
Yeah.
There's no, oh, well, he's a competitive player. He's not invited to our narrative event. I mean, when did you ever see that before? When did you ever see this even focus on narrative events?
Oh, never.
I mean, support for the Nova narrative, the LVO narrative. I mean,
I think the only time I ever really saw anything like that, oh no, geez. I was going to say for 40K, but I don't even really remember much for narrative 40K stuff being a thing before.
Not before this.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some of those worldwide campaigns, but those were kind of, they were so poorly managed and, and it was not, I don't want to say poorly managed because that makes it sound bad, but they were almost from their inception unmanageable because they could be gamed so easily.
Yeah. Well,
and they were.
The Imperium wins every time.
Yeah.
Couldn't possibly be because most people own Imperial armies.
Yeah.
So
where do you think, let's say, the 10-year anniversary, when we're sitting here and I'm half dead with age and you're half dead with whatever you're half dead with.
Yeah, it happens.
What do you think we're going to be saying about that first 10 years?
Wow. Where do I think we'll be in 5 years, basically, with Age of Sigmar?
Yep.
I think 5 years from now, we will have had 6 new Stormcast books.
I knew you were going to drill down.
Gloomspite will still be terrible. They will continue nerfing Caradron Overlords out of playability.
They won't even be able to shoot anymore.
Yeah. And Tzeentch will still be terrifying in the Magic phase.
Yeah.
I think of that.
And Seraphon will turn it off.
No, I don't know. Wow, 5 years from now.
That's such a hard one.
Yeah.
I can barely look out. I mean, I see in the next year, maybe 18 months, AOS 3.0 will come out.
Yeah.
There's enough bloated stuff out there. There's enough extra sources that you need to play the game that they need to start pulling it back in. And there's a few things I think that are on the hotspot to change. But I don't, again, it's not going to be a revamp. We're not going to see, 8th to AOS. We're going to see an incremental advancement and little changes here and there.
Yeah.
And we'll see some of the 40K mentality transfer over because they freely admit that they take the good ideas from one and put it in the other.
Sure. Why
You
wouldn't
can see 40K evolving into having some of the AOS stuff that works.
I think one of the biggest impacts that we'll see in Age of Sigmar is if the old world, whatever the game that they're going to release based on that is, what that is, and the impact it'll have on AOS.
Right.
I think that's if it's basically just 8.5 or 9th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles, which I hope it's not. I'm hoping it's an epic style.
Yeah, something
old world game or something. I have no idea.
Something embraceable. Yeah.
But that will probably have the single biggest impact on whatever Age of Sigmar will be 5 years from now.
Yeah, I think you are quite correct. And I will still be painting Bone Reapers.
I'll probably still be painting Randall's army.
Oh, it rears its ugly head even in the Minisode.
Yep.
I love it. With that, final thoughts?
Ooh, I'm loving it, man. It's hard because I got to thinking about where I'm at mentally with Age of Sigmar, and I have to admit it's not in the best place at the moment because we've played one game since LVO.
Since LVO,
and including the 5 tournament games I played at LVO, that puts me at like 6 games in the last, I don't know,
6 months.
Yeah, at least 6 to 8 months. And,
yep.
And it's hard to stay motivated and focused about a game that you're just not playing anymore.
Well, we're working on that now that I've got my Night Haunt painted up.
Yeah.
We have to start getting, and we're going to have a general's handbook to plow through, and that looks like we don't want to jump into that too much, but
right.
You've got a lot of stuff to plow through.
Yeah.
See, now, for me, as a final thought, I just really want to say to the entire AOS community, whether you agree with us or with me and my opinions, I don't care. I am so glad and happy to be a part of you, or to be the butt of your jokes, or to be someone that you respect their opinion of. Yeah, like someone would do that.
Let's not get crazy.
Yeah, let's not do that. But, it is just so much fun to be a part of this world-encompassing hobby. It is just, it's great to have a platform to talk about this game and to have people that actually digest it and comment on it and agree and disagree. It's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we will call it done. Thank you for 5 years of AOS.
Yeah. Here's to another 5.
Stormcast are cool.